What's up everyone and welcome to another Python video. This video is exceptionally amazing because we're finally going to be converting Python files into executables. That's right, and it's really easy. There are many benefits to this. You can have your own executable that you could toss around to your friends or family once you made a very cool game, which is exactly what I'll be doing after this video. Alright, so here we have my chess game which I just recently demoed. You should probably check that video out, it's really cool. And we're going to be converting it to an executable. So always make sure you run your file first to make sure there are no errors and everything works as expected. Great. Now that we have that working, we can hop in and create our executable using our commands. So the command is called pyinstaller. So type that in. And alright, so pyinstaller, and I'm going to toss some commands at you, and then we'll go through them, and I'll explain each and every one while the game is generating. So first, I'm going to add a one file, and this is basically going to make sure that everything is packaged into one file. And then I'm also going to add an icon. So it would be helpful to go ahead and look at my files. So this is my file organization. I know it's not the prettiest, but basically we need to add piece images and then the icon. So this is the icon that's going to show up everywhere, like the VS Code icon. So I'm going to go ahead and add the icon command, which is icon is equal to python logo.ico. And then I'm going to do add data. And here I'm going to be adding the data of the piece images. So I can put that in, and then adding a semicolon, and then repeating. And then after that, since this is a Pygame game, it's going to generate the hello from the Pygame community. And we don't want that to happen because that will trigger a terminal to be created. So I'm going to add another command and call that no console. This will make sure none of that pops up along with the chess game window. And then we have to put in the game that we're going to be running itself. Alright, go ahead, hit enter, and while that's generating, let's go ahead and look at all the other commands that we can use. Alright, so you saw the basic command. It's basically just pyinstaller and then adding your script. So .py, so basically your program and then with pyinstaller. Now, like I did, to create a standalone executable, you need to add the one file command. And I'm just going to call each chunk a command. So adding that makes sure that all the dependencies are inside one .exe file. Another thing you can do is adding a custom icon, which I also did, by setting the icon equal to the icon you want to set it to. So I had mine as the python logo.ico. The other thing that you can do is adding the no console, which I just did and explained that the terminal won't show up. This is especially useful in GUI games, like this one. Similar to the no console, we also have the windowed. So no console and windowed are the exact same. They will just make sure that your application stays in one window. Another very important command is adding additional files or assets, including images and sounds. Now adding this is slightly interesting, but basically you want to add the add data, and then you want to have your folder, semicolon, your folder's name again. On macOS, instead of the semicolon, you just have a colon. So like I did, I added my piece images folder, which contained all the piece images for each of the pieces, and then I added the semicolon and repeated it. These are basically all the external files that your game does not already have. Another thing you can do is specify the output directory. So right now the game is going to generate, or the EXE file is going to generate inside the dist folder. And if you don't want that for whatever reason, you can add the dist path and then / whatever folder you want to send it into. You can also add the debugging command block. So you can do that by adding just debug, and then you can add all. So that will help you debug, and it will be useful for troubleshooting issues with the executable if you have any. You can also exclude unnecessary modules. This is especially useful if you have a really big game and you don't want the incredible size. So you can exclude certain modules that you might not want, and that'll just reduce the size of the executable. You can also use spec files. And that's usually generated on the first build, but you can modify it and then return it to the PyInstaller. You can also use a specific Python interpreter. This is usually if you have a virtual environment or if you want to use a specific version of Python. For example, you have a really old file that's in Python 2 and you want to convert it into an EXE, you could use that using the dash dash Python. You can also clean the previous builds. So something I could have also done, it just cleans up all the random junk in the build folder, which it's also building your application in case there was anything left before you started a new build. You can also generate a non-compressible executable. So this you could use this if your executable might have some errors being compressed. You can do this by adding the no-upx command. You can also add version information, usually for more advanced files, but adding version dash file and then giving it your Intel file version info text document with all the things you wanted to know, like your company name, your name, the date generated, or the date made, and then the version. Another useful quick chunk is adding hidden imports. So there are sometimes imports that the PyInstaller might not recognize and you would want to add yourself. You can do that by putting in hidden import. You can also optimize the executable size, which I think is really cool. And I think I could have done that as well, but I didn't, and that's fine. It's not that big a program. But you basically add the strip command, which strips all the extra stuff that you don't need. Alright, so now that we have gone through all the extra crazy commands that you might find useful, you might not, let's go ahead and check out our actual chess game. Alright, so I've opened up my chess game, and as you can see, it is working. It's got all the images, and just like how I demoed, it is working perfectly fine. Now, you see there's a logo that was specified in the code, but there are lots of things that could be improved, such as adding custom times and then changing whatever you want to do, and make it more user-friendly. This just starts in the regular position with 10 minutes on the clock. So these are things you might want to think about when generating your executable. How do I make it more user-friendly and user-customizable? Because sometimes we forget to do that, and it's often the most important part. Alright, so that's how to turn your program into an executable. I hope you found that useful, and make sure you subscribe. It really helps me out. Catch you in the next one.